looking for the supplies right now. If anybody has supplies that they can give, or they are able to donate money towards those supplies.
Not an easy task, he says, as the CDC constantly changes their recommended protective gear.
So every day this changes, and then realize, oh, well, yesterday I was only wearing this, yesterday I was only wearing that, and now it's like, oh, well, we don't have enough, so wear a scarf.
One of the key items he says is the CAPR, or a powered air purifying respirator.
Every day this changes, and realize, oh, well, yesterday
$515 to $2,000 each.
this is like the basic version, but none of us have it.
Mordechay is hoping to raise $100,000 through his GoFundMe page, which already has more than $10,000 in donations. Veronica Miracle, ABC.
With a mortgage and a kid, they're thinking about life insurance.
Morning, 7 o'clock. We'll wait 2 more minutes. A few more people to join us.
Morning, Danny.
Oh, shoot. Sorry. What's that?
Boker Tov.
Okay. Guys, okay. Morning. The help of Hashem Yisparach, today we're going to learn Shabbos Daf Chav Tes. We left off on Chav Ches on the days. We learned the Mishnah yesterday, as well as the first interpretation of the Machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. We're going to dedicate today's learning for everybody that needs it. God willing, soon our rabbi will have enough koyach to get back to consistently teaching every day. Until that time, I am your humble servant, and I will do my best to attempt to fill in. So, a slight recap. We learned yesterday that there's a machlokes Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva about a folded wig. If you have a wig that's folded, and Rashi explains it's folded and twisted, but it hasn't been singed, the question is whether it is susceptible to becoming tameh or not. Rabbi Eliezer says, yes, it becomes tameh. Rabbi Akiva said, no, it remains tahor. And you can use it to light Shabbos candles with it. So the first explanation of that machlokes that we learned yesterday from Ada bar Ava was he basically gave us a very narrow set of circumstances that this situation pertains to. It's talking about a Yom Tov that fell on Erev Shabbos. And we're talking about a piece of cloth that was exactly 3 by 3 finger breadths. And there was a concern, and you had to hold, you had to hold of the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, okay, who is one who says that you have to be concerned about noilad becoming and it being an issue of muksa. So all these factors was the case that they were arguing about. That was the opinion of Ada bar Ava that we learned yesterday. Okay, so today we're gonna move forward in the Gemara with other opinions as to what the machlokes was about, and then as we go on through the Gemara, we'll come to the next Mishnah, and we're going to get into the idea of davar she'ein miskaven and that famous machlokes and very much halacha l'maisa issues. So we left off yesterday by Omer Rabbi Yosef, I think, and maybe it's worth going back a few lines to on the bottom of Chav Ches Amud Beis. Let's go. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom, right? So we discussed this the machlokes in our Mishnah of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva, and according to the explanation of Ada bar Ava, so it was talking about this little piece of cloth that measured exactly 3 by 3 finger breadths. So Amar Rabbi Yosef said, Hainu itnena, this explanation of the brisa that we once learned, shalish al shalish mutzumtsois, that the Mishnah is talking about a case with a garment or a cloth that measured exactly 3 by 3. I didn't know which one it referred to. So he learned the brisa that talked about, that mentioned that there's a Mishnah that deals with a piece of cloth that was exactly 3 by 3. And I never knew which Mishnah was talking about it. So based on this explanation of our Mishnah of the Machlokes, Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Akiva, he says, now I know which Mishnah it pertains to. So now the Gemara says, well, wait a minute. So according to this explanation of Ada bar Abba, it was very clear that both Rebbe Eliezer and Rebbe Akiva hold like Rebbe Yehuda, the Tana Rebbe Yehuda, who throughout Hilchos Shabbos, he is the one who has broad application of the idea of muksa. Okay? It seems that if Rav Ada bar Abba is explaining the opinions of our Mishnah, that they're both going like Rav Yehuda, it seems like he himself would hold that way. So, Rav Amar Rav Ada bar Abba, does he actually in fact say that? We know we learned that Rav Ada bar Abba says, turning to Chavtes Amud Aleph on the top of the page, Nochri shechokak kav bebekas Yisrael yomtiv. If a non-Jew carved out a log and made it into a receptacle, let's say he dug out he turned the log into like a bowl, and he did it on Yom Tov. So he says you could fuel a fire with it on Yom Tov. Amai, but why could he? Nailadu. It was nailad. It went from being a log into being a bowl. So if it was nailad, it should be muksa and should be usher to use. So and for the Gemara, the Devreim Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Kiva Kamerle. His explanation in the Mishnah was, he was saying, hey, this is Pshat and the Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Akiva. They hold like Rabbi Yehuda, but he himself, Velei lo yisfirale. He himself doesn't paskin that way. So he taka paskins like the opinions that are lenient as it relates to muksa, right? And he's just explaining that the Machlokes of Rabbi Eliezer Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah they both hold like Rabbi Yehuda. However, he personally holds like the Tana Reb Shimon, who argues with Rabbi Yehuda as it relates to muksa, and he does not have a problem with nailad because he said nailad's not muksa. And then there's many other discussions, many other cases where Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda argue about muksa, and we're going to get to some of them a little later here in the Gemara. Next explanation, Rava Amar. Rava says, look, this whole answer of you're limiting the it's 3 by 3, it's Yom Tov, it's Erev Shabbos, no, very simple, very, very simple. Hainu Talmud Rebbe Eliezer, the reason Rebbe Eliezer has a problem with using these folded wicks that have not been singed as wicks for Shabbos, he says you can't do it. You cannot use a wick that hasn't been singed. Nor with rags that are not charred. Meaning, he wants that when you light something for Shabbos, it should, just like we learned, in the beginning of the parak. What did we learn? We learned all about fuels that you cannot use. We learned all about wicks you cannot use. The whole concept is that we want the fire to catch easily and catch nicely. And if the wick is not charred and it's only folded, it's not going to catch nicely. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer holds nish, you can't use it. Very simple, nothing to do with Erev Shabbos, 3 by 3, the whole thing. And just to comment on this, so Tosfos brings down that halacha l'maisa today, you don't need to actually singe. And he says, because, the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer, which is the one that holds you have to singe it, Rabbi Eliezer was known as Shamuti, right? So Rabbi Eliezer generally went like he paskin like the Shammai, and we generally do not paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. Therefore, today there's no need to singe. That said, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch. The Ramah says that Yitaka do singe candles, as Rabbi Zions mentioned yesterday in the shiur, that it's an inyan for men, dafka husbands, to set up his wives' candles and to singe them. Today, whether you need a singer or not, maybe our wicks are very flammable. They light very easily and cleanly, so maybe you don't need to singe it. I remember as a child, that was one of the jobs my mother had me do, and my brothers. We would have to singe the candles beforehand. Interestingly, another little nugget that I heard on this concept, Rabbi Kiva Eger says, it talks about the mitzvahs that apply to women. It says nida, chala, and hadlokas haner. So if you listen to the way it reads, it should maybe it should just say nida, chala, ner. Why does it say, if you're mentioning the action of hadlokas haner, so why doesn't it should say prisas nida, hafrashas chala, hadlokas haner, right? Why does it say nida chala but only hadlokas haner? There's only the actual action involved is as opposed to just saying candle, right? Like we say nida chala. So he answers that dafka by ner, the woman's mitzvah is only the hadlaka, right? But actually setting it up, singeing it, that's on the man. So that's why it's nida chala and dafka hadlaka saner. A nice little shtickle. Also, I heard that it's a similar concept to the same way men are supposed to set the woman's candles, set his wife's candles, and singe them and prepare them for her, and that's his, let's say, his contribution to the mitzvah. Similarly, when a couple gets married, it's a minhag for the wife to buy a talis for her chassan, and it's a similar idea. That way, she has her portion in, let's say, the husband's davening and all the things that he does with the talis. That's her contribution. That's why she's mishtatif in it. Okay, moving forward. Elahad Amar Rav Yosef. So now what we said before, when Rav Yosef brought down that there was a brisa, right? And that talked about a Mishnah dealing with shalish al shalish, with some sois, l'mayhil chasa. So what does it apply to? Clearly, it doesn't apply to our Mishnah, because now, according to Rava's answer, our Mishnah has nothing to do with 3 by 3. It's simply a machlekes about a folded wick, whether it's something that can be used because it burns or it catches nicely, or it doesn't. So then what is that brisa referring to? So the Gemara answers, Le'inyan Tumah, it's talking about a Mishnah that has to do with Tumah. The Tanan that we learned in Kalim, Shalish al Shalish Amru, this that they said 3 by 3 finger breadths, Chutz min hamlo. It's talking about a cloth without the hem. Reb Shimon. It's talking when it's exactly 3 by 3, even without the hem. So the dispute in this Mishnah between the Chacham and Reb Shimon has to do with when you say that you have a fabric that's 3 by 3 finger breadths, doesn't mean exactly 3 by 3 like a swatch of cloth, right? Or does it mean no? It's 3 by 3 with enough extra fabric that it can be folded and hemmed, because that would make it finished. So Reb Shimon says you need a little bit extra, and the Chachamim say no, 3 by 3 exactly without any additional fabric to hem it. So that is the Mishnah in Kalim, and that is the Mishnah that the brisa that Rav Yosef brought. That's the one that they're referring to. Okay, moving forward. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Amar Rav. Rabbi Yehuda says in the name of Rav. We're now going to discuss the concept of noilad, and we're going to get into the machlekes of Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Shimon, and we're going to talk about 3 different examples of noilad where Rabbi Yehuda is machmer and says it's muksa because it's Noilad, and Reb Shimon is Matir. So Masikim Bekalim, you're allowed to burn, use as fuel, right? Whole vessels. Vein Masikim B'Shivri Kalim. You cannot use fragmented utensils, broken utensils. This is exactly what we learned yesterday in the explanation of Rav Ada Bar Abba when he was explaining his version of the machlokes between Rav Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva. He said, "Dafka, it was you had to that those Tanoim held like Rabbi Yehuda, and this is the actual case. So, can you take a broken vessel and use it as fuel, meaning of a vessel that actually broke on Yom Tiv, right? So, according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's a problem because no, you had a vessel, and now it's a broken vessel. So it went from being, let's say, a vessel to firewood, because that is something that it's a new entity, it's a new thing, and therefore, alt noilad, you cannot use it. It's muksa. And Reb Shimon Matir, Reb Shimon says no, it's no problem. He's not worried about this concept of noilad being muksa, and therefore you can use it as fuel. Next case, masikin b'tamorin. Can someone use one can use dates as fuel on Yom Tov. If you have, I don't know how flammable dates are, but you had a pile of dates and you want to use that as your firewood, you certainly can throw the whole dates into the fire, no problem. Acholon in masikin b'garinehen. So if you ate the dates and now you only have left their pits, you cannot use them as fire, as fuel. Als noila. Different Rabbi Yehuda. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Matir. Rabbi Shimon is Matir, so it's the same idea. Here we have a date. So long as it's a date, I can take it and throw it into the fire if I want, use it as fuel. But if I eat the date and now I'm only left with a pit, so now this is a new item. There's a concept of noilad. I throw it into the fire. I'm not allowed to according to Rabbi Yehuda, but according to Rabbi Shimon, it's fine. Third case, masikin be'egoizim. Masikin be'egoizim acholon ein masikin be'kilposehen. So you are able to throw nuts into the fire, use it as fuel. So you have a pile of walnuts. You bought too many for Pesach. So now you have all these nuts. You want to just throw them into the fire and burn them? No problem. But if you crack them open, you eat the nuts, and now you're left with the shells, you cannot use those shells because the shells would be considered noilad. It's a new concept. It went from being a nut to being just a shell, and that cannot be used as firewood on Yom Tov, and that's according to Rabbi Yehuda. And Rabbi Shimon says no problem. So now the Gemara says utricha. We need to learn, or we need to have been taught this machlokes by all three cases: by the case of by the vessels, by the case of the dates and their pits, and the case of the nuts. If we only learned the case of the vessels. So I would have said, Dafki in the case of the vessels. That is where Rabbi Yehuda holds that there's a concept of noilad, right? Because literally it's a new item. Mishum denikara kli b'hashta shever. We had a vessel, and now it's just a broken fragment. B'hashta shever kli. B'havi noilad b'aser. That is the case of noilad, and in such a case it's aser. Aval tamarin, but in the case of date pits, nikora garina v'hashta garinin, the pits were there the whole time, right? The only difference was that they were covered up by the fruit, but they're there the whole time. So in such a case, I would have said it's no problem. You could burn them, right? Because that's not really considered noilad. You just took off the fruit that was surrounded it. Okay, so that's why we need the case of not just the bulls, but also the case of the dates and the pits. So now what about the nuts? If it would have only garinin, if it would only tell us given us the case of the dates and the date pits, Havamina demikora mechasyon bahashta megalyon. Since over there they were covered over, right? In the beginning of Yontif, they were covered, and now they're uncovered. So dafka in that case, we consider it noilet. Avaklipe goizim demikora migalu bahashta migalu. But regarding nuts, where the shell was exposed and uncovered the entire time, right? So in that case, Ema Shapir, I would have said Shapir dummy. In such a case, then there's really, so I would have said that in such a case, it's no problem to burn them. So therefore, Tzricha, we need that case also. So, in each case, but wait, V'hada Rav, and this ruling of Rav, right? Lav b'ferish itmer. Oh, one second. So just to clarify, so in the case of the nuts, where it's more exposed, right? So you would say, well, 1 second. If it was exposed since the beginning of Yontif, so there's not really noilet going on here. So maybe in that case, right? Let's go the other way. Instead of Reb Shimon being maybe Reb Yehuda would agree and say in that case, no, that's not really noilet. It's not. That would not be considered muksa because it was there the whole time. So therefore, it teaches us all three cases. So the case of the bulls, the case of the pits, the case of the nuts. That in all cases, in all three of those situations, Reb Yehuda is considering it noilad, and Reb Shimon is considering it not a problem of noilad being muksa. Okay, moving forward. V'hada Rav, and this ruling of Rav, la b'ferish itmer, that this case of the pits, he never said it explicitly, but rather it was derived from a story that we know that happened with Rav. Ela maklal itmer. It was derived from inference. The Rav Ochal Tamre, Rishada Kashyasa Lebuchya. So Rav, one day he was walking and he was eating dates, and he chucked the pits into the oven to use them as fuel. So Amar le Reb Chia. Reb Chia said to him, Bar Pachte, son of nobleman, right? That was we learned this previously that Reb Chia often would refer to Rav as Bar Pachte. Right? Also, Reb Chia was his uncle. So I guess it was, anyhow, Rav stemmed from very high quality Talmud Chachamim. So he used to call him the son of nobleman. Kenegdei b'yamtiv aser. He told him, hey, what you just did during the weekday, hey, no problem. But on Yamtiv, it's aser. So Rav Yehuda, knowing this story, assumed that Rav agreed with this teaching of Rav Chia, and therefore he stated Rav Yehuda Amar Rav that also in the case of the dates. Okay, so Kibbul B'nei or like Kibbul B'nei. The question is, did Rav actually accept this din from Rav Chia, or did he not? So Tashma, listen to this. He also Rav the Bubble. When Rav came to Bubble from Eretz Yisrael, Ochel Tamre, he once was eating dates on Yom Tiv. V'shada kashyasa l'chevasa. He threw the pits out to the animals. So my lav, the parsa yasa b'lei kibla. It sounds according to this story, if Rav was eating dates, right, and now he has a clean pit and he's going to toss that pit to the animals. Naila, how could you feed animals from a pit which is muksa if he holds that this would be a case of naila? So it seems like from this story that he did not accept the ruling of Reb Chia, who told him that on Yom Tov you would not be able to use the pits because of naila. So, and for the Gemara, loy. But Armayosa, in the case of Rav, with this story where when he came to Bubble, he ate the pits and he ate the fruit and he tossed the pits to the animals. It's different because in that case, there was fruit attached to the pit. So you could eat a peach, right? If you eat a peach, you'll notice there's usually a lot of, let's say, fruit that remains attached to the actual pit. So in such a case, because there's food attached to the pit, it's not considered nailad, and therefore you could, in such a case, toss it to your animal. However, if the pit in fact was completely clean and devoid of any fruit, now it is like a totally new substance. It's considered nailad, and then Rav would have agreed with, he agrees with Rav Chia, and Hitaka would not have tossed it to the animal. And at the same time, he would not be able to use it for fuel because it's muksa als nailad. Okay, just to mention that in Shulchan Aruch, we know normally with the machlekes Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon, we normally paskin like Reb Shimon, but as it relates to nailad and muksa, Shulchan Aruch actually paskins like Reb Yehuda, that the let's call it the shells of the nuts or the pits from the dates are in fact muksa because of nailad. So you might ask yourself, right, I'm sitting Pesach at my table, like a good Lubavitcher that eats milk products, it's only eating nuts, right? Dessert is nuts and the snacks are nuts. The kids play the games with the nuts. So now you're eating your nuts and you have a pile of shells. How do you get rid of it if it's muksa? So there's a concept called grav shel rei, which is basically that when they established this idea of muksa, they didn't make it to the point where you have to be disgusted by it, right? So that's how we're able to remove trash. And so you should know, like when you're eating garanim or you're eating these walnuts on Pesach or whenever, the shells are muksa. But the Chachamim established it in a way where you could take it and throw it out, okay? That you could do, because otherwise it's disgusting and it will gross people out. But it's good to know that that concept exists, and in fact it is muksa. Okay, moving forward. Amar le Rav Shmuel bar Chana le Rav Yosef. Rav Shmuel bar Chana asked Rav Yosef, the Rav Yehuda, the Amar Masikim B'Kelim Ve'im Masikim Shivrei Kelim. According to Rav Yehuda, who holds that you're allowed to burn whole vessels, but you're not allowed to use as fuel fragmented fragmented vessels. So, Kima the Adik who Pursa Havale Shivrei Kelim. So as soon as someone lights, I take that whole bowl, right? I toss it into my fire. Well, what's going to happen? In a minute or two, that whole bowl, as I stoke the fire, is going to be broken up, and now you didn't accomplish anything. It's not a whole vessel anymore. Now you just cause it to be a fragment, and it's burning. So you're actually using the fragment. So Avid Krab Masna, you're allowed to stoke the burning utensils that you threw in the fire. When you threw them in whole, you're still allowed to do it because it's the way Rav Masna says. The Amar Rav Masna Amar Rav Eitzim Shenashru Min Hadekel Taner B'Yamtiv. If a branch fell off a palm tree directly into your oven on Yom Tov, so Marbe Eitzim Muchonin Umasikin. So here's a similar situation. You have an outdoor oven, okay? And you've got a palm tree and the branch falls off and falls right into your oven. So now it's a problem of nailad on Yom Tov because this branch went from being a branch to being a wood on Yom Tov, to being firewood. So how are you able to do it? So Rav Masna Marav says, no problem. All you have to do is add wood to the fire. And then you have the concept of bittul b'roiv, and you'd be fine. So similarly, in the case of our example of using the whole vessels that you threw into the fire, so as long as you've added other wood in there, so now at this point you could stoke it, you can move it around. It's not a problem because it is bottle within the roiv. Okay, now. There is a concept of ein mevatan iser lechatchila, which is a whole different sugya. But just to know that concept is generally by a dairaisa, whereas by derabanan, usually we hold that you could be mevatan iser lechatchila, and that would be the reason why here with the bowl that breaks up, you're still allowed to stoke it, even though there's additional firewood in there. Also, one more point that just kind of connects to what we learned yesterday. The concept of muksa is not that you're not allowed to benefit from muksa. It's that you're not allowed to use muksa. Okay, and that was the when we answered, we talked yesterday about the opinion of Ula, right? That he said the mitzvah of lighting candles was when you fully lit it. So you have to actually hold the fire by the wick until it fully catches, right? This idea of, and I don't know if we explained it that way exactly yesterday, but the muksa concept is that you're using the wick. By the fact that you're holding the fire against the wick until it catches, that's a problem of muksa. It's not that you're benefiting from muksa, it's that you're using the muksa. So too, in our case, when you have the bowl that breaks up in your fire, now it's a fragment. So how could you go in there and stoke it in order to improve the fire? If you're stoking it, you're really using muksa. So that's the answer here, that it's batal b'roiv, and therefore it's not an issue of using muksa. Rav Hamnuna Amar. Now Rav Hamnuna offers another explanation as to the machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva from our Mishnah. We're talking about a case in the Mishnah with a cloth that is less than 3 by 3 tvachim, right? When we say shloisha, it's referring shloisha is tvachim. Shalish al shalish is etzbois. Okay, so this is a case of a cloth that's larger than 3 finger breadths, smaller than 3 hand breadths. So it's somewhat insignificant, right? And umekule matlanyos shanukan. And here they're dealing with rags that have been designated for insignificant use. So generally, when a rag is designated for insignificant use, it's your way of signifying that it's no longer important, and therefore it's not considered a keli, and it wouldn't be roy to be mekabel tuma. Okay, so you have a rag, it's smaller than 3 by 3 hand breadths, and you have used it for things, let's just call it, you're using it for very, very insignificant use. But also Rabbi Eliezer l'tamei. So Rabbi Eliezer, who is the opinion that says what? Going back to our Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer says that you what do we say in the Mishnah? Hold on. Rabbi Eliezer says that it is tamei, and therefore you cannot use the wicks, right? You cannot use it. So he holds, according to his, that pachas mishloish al shloisha shehispinu, that less than 3 by 3 tvachim, that they were misakim lifkak boyas hamerchetz. It's talking about a rag that was less than 3 that was used. Either you used it as a stopper to stop up the drain in the bathhouse. So obviously, if you're using a small rag to plug a drain, it's not exactly a valuable piece of cloth. Or if you're using it just to chop a hot pot in order to pour out the contents, or if you're using it really as a shmata to clean out the millstone, right? And then afterwards, you have this small shmata, and you're using it for these rather insignificant uses. So now, if you put it away, he says, bein min hamuchan, bein she'ein min hamuchan, tamei. Whether it's considered prepared or not prepared, this rag is susceptible to becoming tamei. It still holds its designation as being a cloth that is somewhat significant, even though you've used it for insignificant uses. And it says whether it's prepared or unprepared. What does this mean, prepared or unprepared? We're going to get to it. So different Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yeshua says, okay, we're at 3 lines from the bottom of Chav Tes Amud Aleph. Bein min hamuchan, bein shaloi min hamuchan, toher. whether this rag is considered prepared or not, tahar, it's insignificant, and therefore it's not mekabel tumah. Rabbi Kiva says, min amuchon tameh, shaloi min amuchon tahar. He says that in the case where it is considered prepared, then it becomes tameh. But if it is not prepared, then it would be tahar, and it doesn't retain its significance. Excuse me. V'amar Ula, and Ula says, "Item Rav Bar Chana Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Hakol Moedim." Of these three Tanoim, everybody agrees that Zurake ba'ashba divrei hakol tahar. If you took this cloth and you chucked it into the trash, okay, you threw it onto a trash heap. So in such a case, it is clearly no longer significant, and it would not be mekabel tumah. Okay, it no longer retains its significance as a cloth, as a fabric, as okay. Turning the page to Chaf Test Amud Beis. Hinichu b'kufza. If, on the other hand, if you took this rag and after using it to stuff your drain, or after using it with the pot, so you used it for a rather insignificant use, but now you folded it up, you cleaned it, whatever, you put it into your drawer. Okay, so in such a case, divrei hakol tameh. According to everybody, all three Tanoim would agree that in that case, this rag is tameh because you clearly are retaining it for its future use, and therefore, even though you used it for something insignificant, it's like it reverts to being significant because you clearly want to use it again. Now, the disagreement is only in a case where either you took this rag after using it for an insignificant use and hung it on a peg, or you placed it behind the door. So now it's kind of like an in-between situation where you didn't fold it up and put it in your drawer, but you didn't toss it out. So now, how do we look at it? Do we look at this as, okay, it's just tossing it behind the door, or throwing it on the peg is indicative of it remaining insignificant, and therefore, in such a case, it would not be mekabel tumah? Or do you say no? He's actually saving it, so it should be mekabel tumah. So Rebbe Eliezer Savar, midaloi zrakai ba'ashba, since he never threw it out into the trash heap, daite ivole. So his mind is on it. He's intending to reuse it, and therefore it will be mekabel tumah. So now these cases are called min hamuchon and shaloi min hamuchon. So why would this be called shaloi min hamuchon? If he's hanging it on the peg or if he's putting it behind the door, seemingly that is prepared. So the legabe kufsa loy muchanu, that compared to putting it in the chest, it's not considered prepared. Meaning, putting it into the chest, that's called prepared. But hanging it on the door or putting it behind the door or hanging it on a peg, that's loy min hamuchon. And even still, it would be mekabel tumah according to Rebbe Eliezer. Being that he didn't put it into his drawer to put it away, so batule batle, he clearly is not thinking much about it. He hung it on a peg, he put it behind the back. So why is that called prepared? You know, if it's just hanging on the peg, why? Compared to the trash heap, that's considered prepared, right? But even though you could call it prepared, the fact is that it's behind the door, it's on a peg, so it's kind of insignificant, and therefore Rabbi Yeshua holds that it can no longer be mekabel tumah because it's no longer in this category of being a cloth or a fabric, so it's not mekabel tumah. It's not an actual significant item. Rabbi Akiva, Bitloi Magid, the Magid Savak Rebbe Eliezer, Hanichai Achari Adela Savak Rebbe Yeshua. So now in the two cases, Rabbi Akiva is actually kind of splitting the two. He's saying that in the case where you hang it on a peg, that's more significant than just tossing it behind the door. So in that case, when you hang it on the peg, it's more similar to putting it away, and it's considered minamuchon. So in that case, he holds like Rabbi Eliezer, but if you just toss it behind the door, he holds like Rabbi Yeshua. So we see here that in the case of a rag that was deemed insignificant by its owner, but then afterwards it was let's say it was given some sort of sign that it was important. So there would be the machlokes of Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Akiva, according to Rav Hamnuna, that would be the case in our Mishnah as to whether you could make a wick from such a rag. If it's significant, like Rabbi Eliezer, you cannot make a wick from it because it's mekabel tuma. Whereas according to Rabbi Akiva, you would be able to make a wick from it. And he finishes off by saying, "V'hadar bei Rabbi Akiva l'gab Rabbi Yeshua," that actually Rabbi Akiva completely retracted, and in the end agrees with Rabbi Yeshua that in the case of the cloth, which he hangs both when he hangs it behind the door, right, and and certainly when he hangs it on the peg, and of course when he tosses it behind the door, he actually holds like Rabbi Yeshua that it is not roy lekabel tuma, to be mekabel tuma, right? Mimai, where do we know this? Amar Rava, midiktani psilas habeged. Since our Mishnah says psilas habeged, my ira the tani psilas habeged, listen to psilas shel beged. Instead it says habeged. Why doesn't it say shel beged? So my psilas habeged, the fact that it says of a garment, la'adayin begedu, meaning that it's still some sort of garment, and even though it's still some sort of garment, Rabbi Kiva still holds that it is not roy lekabel tuma, and which is completely the opinion of Rabbi Yeshua. And so that is the proof. And with this, we finish the sugya on this Mishnah of Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Akiva, and we're going to move forward to the next Mishnah, which picks up on the second wide line on Chav Tes Amud Beis. So Zog the Heilige Mishnah. Lo yikav adam shefayferes shel beitza. A person cannot make holes in an eggshell, v'maleno shemen, and fill the eggshell with oil, v'itnena al pihaner b'shvil shetehei min hatefes, and place it over a lamp so that the oil from the eggshell drips into the cup. See, the Mishnah says you're not allowed to do that. What's the problem here? If you have a lamp, right? So you have some sort of receptacle that has fuel in it and a wick, and now you have an eggshell that's, let's say, positioned next to the lamp, and it's dripping oil through this hole into it. The concern is what? The concern is that you may come and see the oil in the eggshell, and you're going to remove that oil and use it. You're going to go use it for salad dressing, right? And that would be an isser of MERCAVA, right? The isser of MERCAVA of extinguishing. So if you have a certain amount of fuel and you remove that fuel from the fire, even though you're not actually physically putting it out, the fact that you're reducing the amount of time that lamp will burn, that is an isser of extinguishing, and you're not allowed to do it. And therefore, because we're afraid you're going to do it, therefore you cannot fill this eggshell with the hole of oil and put it next to your lamp. Okay. That continues the Mishnah. Even if instead of the eggshell, imagine you have the same situation. Instead of an eggshell, you have some sort of like clay, earthenware utensil that's acting as, let's say, a reservoir of oil or of whatever the fuel is. Even in such a case, you still can't do it. Now, why is this why is this an improvement over the eggshell? Because an eggshell is nice and clean inside. So someone might be tempted to take oil out of the eggshell and use it for their salad or something else. But in the case of the earthenware is kind of dirty and crusty. So no one's going to try and remove oil from an earthenware cup and use it. Even still, the Mishnah says, no, you cannot do it because we're afraid of someone possibly removing we're moving the oil. Rabbi Yehuda Matir. Rabbi Yehuda says it's mutter. So Tanakama says also. Rabbi Yehuda says mutter. Avo im chibro hayoytzer betchila mutter. However, if a pottery guy, you go to Color Me Mine and you made yourself a nice lamp, and you took another cup and you actually attached it, right, and welded it together or attached it somehow, so it really becomes like one vessel. So then it's mutter to do something, even according to the Tanakama, because then it's a single vessel. If it's a single vessel, we're not concerned that someone's going to come and take out oil from the reservoir and use it for his own purposes and be over on MERCAVA. Lo yimali adam ka'ara shel shemen. A person similarly cannot fill a bowl with oil. You cannot take, let's just say you have a bowl with a wick and the wick coming out here. You can't take another bowl of oil and put it next to the bowl that you have the lit wick in and extend the wick into the secondary bowl, right, where it would draw the fuel, draw the oil from the second bowl in order to make it burn longer. You cannot do that. Similar, same concept as the eggshell, because you're afraid that somebody would then take from that oil and use it. Rabbi Yehuda Matir, Rabbi Yehuda permits it. He is not worried about this issue of people taking the oil. If you see a bowl of oil with a wick dipped into it next to another bowl that has a lit wick, no one is gonna make that mistake to say, oh, I could go use that oil. Okay, so that's the Mishnah. Zok the Gemara utsricha. It was necessary to teach each of these three cases. What were the three cases? The eggshell, the earthenware, and the case of the two bowls next to each other. If it only taught us about the eggshell, dafka in the case of the eggshell, I would say that is where the Chachamim were machmir, and they said you cannot do it to keep it delay isa, since it's not moist, it's not gross, it's not disgusting. So the oil is beautiful, delicious looking oil. So you might be tempted to go to that eggshell and take some out and put it on your salad. So I'll say, you're going to come to use it. But in the case of the secondary reservoir that is made of cheres, where it's moist, it's gross, it makes the oil repugnant. So in that case, I would say the Chachamim would agree to Rabbi Yehuda. If I only taught it by cheres, so b'hakam Rabbi Yehuda, I would say dafka in the case of cheres, that's where Rabbi Yehuda says it's mutter. But in the case avol b'hahi, but in the other case, in the case of the egg, where it's not moist, so ema moidil Rabbi Yehuda, I would say that, I'm sorry, ema moidil Rabbanan, I would say that Rabbi Yehuda agrees with the Rabbanan, agrees with the Tanakama here, that what? That it would be usher, because you'd be afraid that you're going to use the oil that is not repugnant. And if they only taught these two cases. So Bahanika Rabbi Yehuda, I would have said that these cases alone, that's where Rabbi Yehuda is makel, okay, that you could, so dafka by the egg, or dafka by the klicheres that's placed on top of the lantern, right, and dripping it in. So in such a case, you're able to do it. Mishum delay mipsak. There's nothing separating them. They're pushing it one on top of another. The egg is right on top of the I don't know. Let's just say this is my egg and this is my lamp. It's like this. So it's dripping right in. I'm not in such a case. Rabbi Yehuda is mekel, but avol ka'ira dimi paska. In the case of a bowl that's placed next to each other, let's say here's my bowl and here's my lamp, and they're just next to each other. In such a case, I would say no. In that case, Rabbi Yehuda would agree with the Chachamim that it's usher. And if they only taught us the case of the two vessels that are next to each other, so I would say dafka in that case, it's where the Chachamim are machmir, and they say you cannot. Avo bahani tarte, but in the other cases, the case of the eggshell, and the case of the, I'm not sure why I see an ad on the screen, but in the case of the eggshell, and in the case of the klecheres, right, that in those cases, Michael Rabbi Yehuda, they would agree to Rabbi Yehuda that it's okay. So therefore, sricha. That's why we needed all three cases. Okay, moving forward, directly in middle of the page, it says the im chibra hayotzer mitchila mutter. If the potter attached them and connected them to each other, then it's mutter, even according to the Chachamim, because it's a single vessel. So Tana, was taught in a brayso, in chibra besid ubecharsis mutter. If the lamp owner himself attached it with plaster or clay, then it's mutter. V'hanan, so frag the Gemara, v'hanan yaitzer tanan. In our Mishnah, it seems to be saying that it needs to be done by a potter. A potter is a professional pottery maker, not just someone on their own, fiddling around with some plaster and attaching two vessels. So, do we actually need a professional, or can it be done by yourself? So, and for the Gemara, ma yaitzer, what does the Mishnah mean when he says a potter? Ke'ein yaitzer, it means someone who's like a potter. So he's answering that no, even if you do it even if you do it at home, but you have the skills to firmly attach the two vessels to each other, the reservoir and the actual lamp, if you have the ability to do it, then it's fine. Moving forward, Tanya, within the brayso, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Pam achas Shabbosenu ba'aliyas beis nizza beloy. We were hanging out on Shabbos in the attic of someone named Nizza. He had a nice attic in Lud, and behaviu lanu shefayferes shel beitza. They brought us an eggshell. Umile nuha shemen unekavnuha vihinach nuha al pianer. They brought an eggshell, literally the exact case of our Mishnah, where there was an eggshell and they made a hole in it, and they used and they dripped the oil from that into the lamp. So they filled it with oil, they made a hole, and they placed it over the lamp. And who was sitting there? Reb Tafrin was sitting there, and there was a bunch of Zakanim sitting there. They said nothing to us as far as it not being allowed. So it seems from this story that happened in the upstairs of this person Nizza's house in Lud, that it seems like a raya that they passed in like Rabbi Yehuda and not like the Chachamim, that it was that this case of dripping the oil from the eggshell is permissible. So Amr loy mishum raya. So it's Amr loy mishum raya. From there, you're going to prove Shani business. There's reason here. No. That was a different situation because everybody that was there were in this category of Zrizin. They were great rabbis. And these great rabbis, because they are so zealous and they are so careful about everything, so they don't have a concern that someone's going to actually take oil out of the eggshell. But that's not a proof that, in fact, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. It's a very strange story here, just to mention, because generally, when there is a takana on, we don't differentiate, let's say, between those that are really, really frum and those that are not. If something's muksa, it's muksa for me, it's muksa for Moshe Rabbeinu. It's not that so certainly this story it needs explanation, and there's a lot of the Achrayim discuss it, and they offer up their their explanations. But just to note, I don't know what the explanations are, but look it up and you'll get an idea. But la halacha, there should never usually be a difference between someone who's zars and someone's not. If it's usher for everybody across the board. Another story. Oven Tzipayra Garar Saf Salah Elisa Shesha. So Oven of Tzipayra. So he once dragged a marble. He dragged a bench in a marble floored upper chamber on Shabbos. So now we're gonna get into the whole discussion of davar she'eino miskaven. So he's dragging the bench on a marble floor. So le'ela Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar, it was done in the presence of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar. So Amar Le, Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar said to him, Ishetaki lach, kideshtiku le chavraya the Rabbi Yehuda nafik minei gzeira. If I'm quiet and I don't say anything to you about you dragging this bench over the marble floor, it's going to be the same thing like the people that were silent, right? With Rabbi Yehuda, meaning in the case that we just brought down about the egg up in what's his name? Base Nisisa. So Reb Tarfon and the Zakanim were quiet. They didn't say any they didn't give him they didn't object to it. So he's saying similarly, if I don't object to you dragging this bench over the marble, everyone's gonna say that, oh, it's no problem to drag benches over the floor. So nafik minei churba, it's gonna cause a destruction. The gzeira Elisa the Shesha to Elisa the Alma. So therefore, you have to decree that it's usher to drag a bench across a marble floor on account for, if not, people will drag it on an unpaved floor. So if you have a dirt floor and you drag a bench across it, it causes a furrow. Okay? So Rab Yitzchak ben Elazar he held as a famous machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Reb Shimon on davar she'eino miskaven. So that's something that is done unintentionally. So if I take a bench and I drag it through a dirt floor and it causes a furrow in the ground, is it mutter? Is it usher? Reb Shimon says it's mutter. You don't have to worry about it. Rabbi Yehuda says it's usher because even though you're not intending it, davar she'eino miskaven is usher on Shabbos. So Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar here is paskening obviously like Rabbi Yehuda. He holds it's usher davar she'eino miskaven. And here, even though there was no furrow here, it was a marble floor. But he was saying, hey, I'm going to protest you dragging the bench over the marble floor because otherwise people will do it on a dirt floor and then they'll be over on Shabbos because I hold the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda in his machlokes Reb Shimon on davar she'eino miskaven. So moving forward, another story is very similar. Reish Kinishta the Batra Garar Tafsala Elam Rabbi Yirmiyah Baraba. The Gabbai, okay, or the Shamish of the shul in Batra, he was once dragging a bench over an unpaved surface, right? So a dirt floor, and it was in front of Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbah. Amalei Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbah said to him, Kiman, who are you holding like that you're able to drag this bench over the dirt floor? Reb Shimon? You're holding like Reb Shimon? Amar da Amar Reb Shimon b'gedolim. Reb Shimon, who holds that davar she'eino miskaven is mutter, you're allowed to drag a table or a bench on a dirt floor, even if it's going to possibly make a furrow, right? So he only holds that in cases of very, very big items. The loy efsher, you can't lift it up. It's too heavy if you lift it up, so then you're able to drag it. Did he say such a thing that on small objects you can do it? Certainly not. So therefore, what are you dragging this through the floor? You have to lift it up. Okay? Opliga de ula. And this opinion of Rabbi Yirmiyah Rabbah is in direct contradiction to the opinion of Ula. The Amar Ula says, Machlokes b'ketanim, the Machlokes of Reb Shimon and Reb Yehuda, as it relates to davar she'eino miskaven, was dafka about small objects, right? Meaning Reb Shimon holds no problem. Even small objects, you can drag them through the ground. And where Reb Yehuda held you cannot, it was dafka on small. That's where he said, no, it's usher. You can lift it up. Where there's something big and heavy that you cannot lift up on your own. Everybody, even Reb Yehuda agrees that it's mutter to drag it. So we have now the explanation in the machlokes of Reb Yehuda, Reb Shimon about davar she'ein miskaven as relates to dragging benches and chairs. So we see two different opinions in that machlokes. One is Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah, who said that the only time Reb Shimon was makel was on big things. Okay, but certainly small things you're not allowed to drag them. And Ula, just the opposite. He said they dafke argued in the case of small things, but on big things, even Reb Yehuda was made that it's okay. So Masar Reb Yosef. Reb Yosef asked, Reb Shimon Omer, Verer Adam Mita Kisa B'Safsal. It says a person can drag a bed, a chair, or a bench across the ground on Shabbos. As long as he's not intending to make a ditch, a furrow, so you're allowed to do it. So the fact that he says a bed, a chair, and a bench, seemingly it's big items and small items, right? So kasha letarvayu, it's a kasha both according to Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah, who said that Reb Shimon only holds by big items, and it's a kasha on Ula, who said that no, they dafka argue by small things, but not by big things. So Ula mitars l'tamei. Ulo answers according to his opinion. Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah mitars l'tamei, and Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah answers according to him. So Ula mitars l'tamei. How does he explain that? How does he explain that? How does he explain that brisa? So he would say mita dumya de kise. When he says he's dragging a bed, he's saying it's similar to the chair. That just like the chair is small, so too the bed is small. So these are small items, and even there, Reb Shimon says that it's no problem to drag. Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah mitaretz tamei. Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah mitaretz tamei. Kisei dumya demita. When it says a chair, it's not talking about a small chair. It's talking about a big gezunta chair that you can't really carry on your own. And dafka there is where Reb Shimon holds you could drag it. The takif was really small, you would not be able to drag it. Masav Rabbah. Rabbah challenged this answer of Reb Yirmiyah Rabbah from a Mishnah, which it says, Moichrei ksus, moichrei kidarka. If someone is selling, we're talking about here garments that have shatnez in them. So you have garments that have wool and linen in it. We all know there's an isser to wear garments that are made of shatnez. So now let's just say, but there's no isser on selling them. If I want to take shatnez garments, I want to sell them to random people in the streets, there's no isser in selling. I remember years ago when I was in London, Marks and Spencer, they said that all the suits there had shatnez. It had linen epis in the shoulder pads, and still also like today, a lot of the high-end suits have that. So if you're a suit seller and you have these suits, you don't have to remove the shatnez from all your suits. You can sell them. You're just not allowed to wear them, right? So the vadsha. So what does the Mishnah teach? It says that these clothing, these garment sellers, right? They were actually allowed to put on the clothing in order to model it for their customers, right? So you can do it. Why? Because they're not wearing it in order to get the benefit of wearing it. They're wearing it just to sell it. So long as in the summer. They're not wearing it to protect them from the sun. And in the rainy season, the winter, they're not doing it to protect themselves from the rain or from the cold, right? They're just doing it to model the clothing for customers. But it says that the people that were tsanua, the people that were very, very pious and strict, so they would not even wear it. They would take the garments and hang it on a mannequin, right? They would hang it up on a hanger behind them. They wouldn't even put it on because they were very, very strict. But what do we see here? And here it's a case where if you wanted to, you could hang it up, and we still say that they're able to wear it in order to model it for selling. So this is very similar to, what do we say, in a case of a small chair or a small bench where you have the ability to lift it yourself. What are we saying here? You don't have to lift it. You could drag it. That's the opinion of Reb Shimon. The same way here, by this Mishnah, we said that the merchants that are selling the clothes are able to wear it, even though they don't have to wear it. They could theoretically hang it, right? The fact that they're allowed to is the haraya that the opinion of Reb Shimon is that davar she'ein miskaven is even in cases of small items which you have the ability to lift, you're still able to drag it. We're saying that it's similar to the small things that the chi loy miskaven shari Reb Shimon lechatchila, and clearly Reb Shimon holds that a davar she'ein miskaven, it's muter lechatchila, even if you had another way out, you were able to lift it. No, you're still able to drag it. So Yufta, the Rav Yirmiyah Rabbah to Yufta. This is an upslug of the opinion of Rav Yirmiyah Rabbah, and Taka we hold that the opinion of Reb Shimon on davar she'ein miskaven is even on something small, even something that you're able to lift, you're able to drag it so long as you don't know for a fact that it's going to make a furrow, which if you knew for a fact that it's going to make a furrow, that is called a psik reisha. And the case of a psik reisha, where you know for sure it's going to happen, that would be a case where even Rabbi Shimon would be stringent. By the way, you can then ask in the case of the clothing, he's wearing the shatnez, is that similarly a psik reisha? He's wearing it, right? He's for sure doing it. So how is it mutter? So there's different commentaries that give different answers. Some say that they only draped it over. He wasn't actually wearing it, but we could go more into this subject later, and I'm sure we're going to cover a lot more on this whole machlokes davar she'ein miskaven. That is very, very relevant in our lives, and I think lahalacha we paskin like Reb Shimon. I think that davar she'ein miskaven is mutter. Shkoyach, guys, Yom Tov. Have a good day.
Thank you, Danny.
Chazak Baruch.